I am making a top 5 DJI Mavic tip before you fly and before you buy so that you know exactly what to expect, the things that typically aren't talked about when you're putting your drone into the air for the first time. So here they are. Number 1, always fly in airplane mode. This is super duper important. Ironically, on your phone, you gotta turn on airplane mode because there's nothing worse than you're flying the drone in the sky, it's pretty far out, you can't quite see where it is, and you get an incoming call and you no longer have a view of your screen of what's going on in the drone. Always fly in airplane mode. There should be drone mode. It's really helpful, really essential, and do not put it in the sky without it because it can get pretty dangerous and there's nothing worse than having a drone that you're not totally in control over when it's in the sky. Always be safe, put it on airplane mode. Tip number 2, super duper important when you're flying, is be very careful with cold weather, and this is less for the drone and more so, again, for your phone. When you're flying in negative degrees weather in the winter, perhaps you want to get those nice shots on the top of the mountain, or maybe it's just outside. Oftentimes your phone, depending on the model of it, will die in colder weather, and it's happened to me before several times where I'll be flying in about minus 10 degrees Celsius, and in the middle of my flight, my phone turned off, the drone would be pretty far away, and it gets really sketchy when you have to hit the return home button because you have absolutely no idea which direction your drone is pointed. Be very careful with cold weather. Always make sure that maybe you have something to warm up, whether that's a glove, a sleeve, or some sort of insulation or heat pack you can put at the back of your phone that's small and portable that can keep it warm in colder weather to make sure that it lasts during those flights, because nothing is sketchier than when your phone turns off and you have absolutely no idea where the drone is pointed and you gotta figure that out yourself. If that's the case, you just gotta return home it out, make sure your battery life on the drone is still good and that it can come back to you safely. Don't play around with these things. This is super important. Be careful of the cold. Tip number 3 is another super important safety tip, and that's before each flight, you should be flying with a friend, family member, somebody with you so that you can have a spotter. If you want to get the best cinematic looking footage, you should have your face in your phone and in the controllers, knowing exactly how you're going to make those shots happen, where the gimbal is pointed, and making them look as nice as possible. Always make sure that your obstacle avoidance is on and that that person that is watching always has an eye on it in the sky. This is essential if you want to have the best looking footage and the safest flight possible. Tip number 4, and this is the one tip that probably can save you the most money and the most damage possible, and that is always make sure and double check that when you are using intelligent flight modes on the drone, such as active track, that obstacle avoidance is turned on. When I was in New York earlier this year, I did end up crashing the drone right into the side of a bank in Central Park, and it was on active track, and the reason why the obstacle avoidance never worked and never stopped the drone is because you actually have to turn it on a second time when you're using intelligent flight mode. So double check that, because you might have it on during regular flights but not during active track, and that can cause a crash. That's unnecessary. That can cause you a lot of money. Luckily for me, it was only a couple of propellers, which were cheap, but I cannot stress this enough. Always double check your setting. Make sure obstacle avoidance is always on. This will save you so much time, money, and effort, and you will be much happier with a drone that is intact than a drone that is broken. So, tip number 5, and this one is super important. I've heard a couple people talk about this. It's the final tip, but I'm going to take it from a slightly different angle. Tip number 5 is always plan your shots well ahead and in advance. So if you're entering a new location, you should scout the area, know exactly what you want to film, how you're going to do it, plan those shots out first so that by the time the drone is actually up in the sky, you know exactly where you're going, when you're going, you can bust these out real quick. The reason why this is so important, because if you're like me and you only have one battery, that battery is only going to last about 20 to 25 minutes of flight time, and that's not a whole lot of time. So if you want to get the most out of each battery life, plan those shots ahead so you have the most cinematic results, the best looking footage in the shortest amount of time, and you're more efficient, and it is much better to do it that way. Battery's gonna last longer, you're gonna get more footage, better footage, and everybody's gonna be a lot happier with the results that you get with your DJI Mavic Pro. So that wraps up a super quick video on 5 essential tips for your DJI Mavic Pro before you fly and before you buy. Hope you enjoyed, and I'm gonna leave with one more bonus tip that's a little less important than the others, but it's something to keep in mind, and that's to always bring a piece of cardboard or a steady surface that you can launch the drone off of, because if you're going to locations that include snow or maybe be some dust or even sand like a beach. Sometimes the propellers can bring the sand or the snow up into the gimbal, and you don't want to scratch that lens. You don't want to mess around with your camera. It's just a lot safer if you have a piece of cardboard, a sheet of some sort that you can launch your drone off of. It'll save you time and money, and it's just an ultimately safer way to do things. I hope you enjoyed these quick 5 tips. If you have any other ideas for tips or advice that you would like to know about your or potential soon-to-be DJI Mavic Pro, let me know. I've been using this thing for the better part of a year now. I was one of the first people to get it that I know of. And if you like this, subscribe for more. We got vlogs, content, edits, everything. And see you soon. Peace!